Hi everyone, it's Suzanne and we're doing the Numerology and the Astrology for May 18th, 2020. If you add up all those numbers, you get the number 18, and if you add the 1 and the 8 together, you get the number 9. So sometimes I like to separate those numbers. So the number 1 is about individuality and independence and standing on your own 2 feet and stepping on your own path and individuating. The number 8 is about grief and loss and sadness, because sometimes that means you have to step away from what is familiar, step away from the known, and move into those areas that are unknown. But the only way to find completion, which is the number 9, is to stand on your own 2 feet. If you look at Deepak Chopra, he even had to walk away from the Maharishi and the teachings of the Maharishi, though it was his base point. And so I find that as we're on our spiritual paths and as we are on our paths of our life, there are places where we, get a tremendous amount of awareness and information, and then we need to kind of go find our own path and find our own way. And completion to me is a state of being that allows others to have their opinions, and those opinions matter not to you in any way at a certain point, because you have to live your life. You have to live your life based on moving towards what is right for you and what gives you joy and awakening. And so I can look at my life and I can say, I've made lots of choices that were related to my individuation and my standing for myself and going in the direction that I perceived was going to be right. And they were not all the easiest choices, and those choices did not necessarily give me what I thought I was looking for, but what they did give me was completion. They gave me the awareness of, listening to my intuition does not always lead me in the direction of ease and flow and grace. Listening to my intuition will actually push me right into my karma and push me up against the people, situations, and circumstances that I actually need in order to grow and evolve. And so the process is yours, and it's yours alone, and no one can walk it with you. No one can do your karma for you. No one can take you on their path. No one can give you enlightenment. All those things take time that is necessary for you to move through whatever it is that you have karmically to work through. There's a form of completion when you recognize that while teachers, tools, and books are guides in this chaotic world, they are not enough, because the path to awakening is yours, and it's always yours alone. Okay, the astrology today is pretty straightforward and simple. It's not very complicated. The moon is in energetic and active Aries, and so your get up and go is ready to move, and you are direct, straightforward, and care less about what others think. You have a sense of bravery and a desire to go forward. You prefer to meet situations directly. If someone pushes you, you push back. The moon in Aries sextile Mercury in Gemini, you seek independence, and your mind is quick and your perceptions are strong. So be open-minded. Take a look at what you need to address in your life that requires you to change. Notice your attachments and what you are avoiding accepting at this time. There is a Venus-Jupiter quintile which wishes to aspire to a more cooperative atmosphere. While you want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, it is important that you recognize that you also must just move forward. Now, my quote for today: "The path to awakening is yours and yours alone," which seems pretty obvious from everything I said up on top. So my blog for today is I was noticing once again the amazing videos that come out of Italy with everybody on their balconies. And I was sitting there thinking, we need more balconies. I mean, we do. We just need more balconies. But I can also imagine that if people without this circumstance were just standing on their balconies singing opera, somebody would probably be screaming, "Shut up!" So it's sort of like, the circumstances for this are very specific, but the history of balconies is really interesting because, in the old Venetian days, is that the way to say that? Venetian days? The courtesans used to, be on their balconies and be very overt and, throw flowers, and men would, throw handkerchiefs up and stuff like this. And so there's an allure to the balcony, which is again related to like Romeo and Juliet, and she's in the balcony, and there's something really beautiful about, you know, that dynamic of looking up, which accesses our higher functioning mind, and it allows us to go into that visual perspective. And I was noticing that one of the things that had happened historically was that balconies were really common, but what would happen would be that armies would come through, and people would throw pots of water, boiling water down on them and stuff like this. And so there was a decree at some point by a leader that said balconies are outlawed because they were throwing garbage and everything down from the balcony when they were mad. And, you know, if you walked past and they didn't like you, they would do that too. So I think the whole concept of balconies is just sort of interesting. But at the moment, they have a great source of joy for me throughout the quarantine, even though I am not in a city or even have a balcony. But I admire the artists that have clearly stated that art is not just important to them, but a necessity in such times of crisis, as a tool to uplift and give hope. While most of the balcony performances are music, there have been Zumba classes and ballet classes and many other expressions that have exploded out into the world, especially in Europe. Thank goodness for the amazing, talented artists that are creatively expressing themselves regardless of the patterns of this pandemic. And I admire all those people out there that just sing because they want to sing and, you know, let it out no matter what. When I lived in Berlin, there was a opera singer that was this huge Swedish man that was a baritone, and he literally would pound horseshoes and metal because he was a blacksmith, and he would sing opera, and he would just bellow this opera. So one day, a gentleman happened to throw a shoe and went in and heard this guy, and this guy whose horse threw the shoe was, you know, the intendant of a theater that did opera, and was like, I want to hire you. So, you know, here's this guy that goes from being this blacksmith to suddenly, you know, being this amazing singer. And so, you know, I think heaven is an interesting place, because I think that everybody thinks when they die they're going to start singing all these beautiful hymns and songs, and they're going to play the harp and all these crazy things, but they don't practice it when they're down here. And I think art is a way that we connect through to the divine. I think sexuality is also another way we connect to the divine. But I find that there are so many things in life that are just ripe for us figuring out how to connect to the divine. So art is life, and art shows you that life from the perspective of the creator. And art shows you the world through another's eyes. Art is a spiritual expression of the energy that a soul carries within. Art connects us to our highest self. Art takes emotions and gives them form and flight. Art is about sharing in its highest form. Art is more than a painting or a song. Artistic expression shows up in the making of food and the beauty expressed in a garden. Art is never about unimportant details. Art shows you how much is very important in life. Art puts light and a magnifying glass on the most simple and beautiful of things in this world. Hopefully this moment helps you realize that your life already is a work of art, that you are art itself. You are a small part of a microcosm of a greater macrocosm that is life in this universe. And that nothing is too small or too insignificant to be expressed as art. So all parts are essential for connecting to that wholeness that you seek. So what would it be like today to try what I try to do, unsuccessfully, mind you, but I try to do do everything to the best of my ability, and I try to make everything as beautiful as I can possibly make it in that moment, without losing authenticity, without it being fake or false. And so, I used to go to restaurants that I had never been to. And, I used to play a geisha game. I called it the geisha game. And the geisha game was to sit there and by myself, totally focused in my small little world, not trying to engage anybody, but to move and eat as gracefully as possible like a geisha, to make every gesture absolutely beautiful. And it would be amazing because I'd be doing that and to taste absolutely everything. My favorite thing to do would be go to a Japanese restaurant and have a glass of sake and then to have the beautiful, simple foods with the flavors and really taste everything. I think that in our fast food zone, which we're not in at the moment, I think we forget to taste food, like actually really taste food. And there's something so beautiful if you relish something and you allow it into your body. And, to move across a room as consciously as you can. And the moment you just try to make movement conscious, it actually becomes graceful and it becomes beautiful. The moment you try and express words consciously, I think that they become poetry, they become graceful and beautiful. So just kind of throwing that out there at the moment to look at this day, because you're sitting at home, and how could you practice elegance? How could you practice elegance? What can you do right now to practice elegance? Like, my suggestion is take out the china. Take out the china and make the most beautiful dinner table. Take out the linens and the linen napkins and use the linen napkins. Like, why wait? Take out that carafe that you've never put brandy in and pour brandy in it and drink out of those beautiful cut glasses. Like, why not enjoy these precious, beautiful things that are in your life? And I think that's why partially this coronavirus quarantine is happening, for us to appreciate what we have. We're so worried about looking out into the world about what we don't have, but what about being aware of what we actually have? Okay. You guys have a good day.